folks. I'm recording this video just in time. It was a lot of prep and all that other extra stuff. But if you taking a look at the title, things are going to get a little serious. My daughter is literally right there, weirdo vibes. So I'm trying to deliver this message as honest as I can and as comfortable as I can. I really wanted to initially do this video with my sister, but that's just not happening right now. So I have to do this video by myself. I'm pretty sure there are things that she wanted to do today with me that couldn't happen, like visit our father's grave. But we doing our own things in memory of our father. And I talk about my father quite a bit on my channel, but never like in depth. So this video in particularly is, just my feelings and thoughts and whatever I feel like. It's so raw and unedited, meaning I may edit it now, but I just mean like I haven't really put any thought into doing this video. I wanted it to be raw emotion, raw conversation, and that's pretty much it. So basically the reason why I thought to do this is because I wanted to commemorate my father on his birthday. My father was born December 23rd, I believe 1959. I don't remember. I'll do the math later to figure out how old he was, but I honestly don't remember. Sorry if you see random like glitter and stuff on me, but yeah, so I know he died when he was 50, I think. I'm not sure. I have to go back because, my father passed in 2008. And for a very, very long time, my father looked like he was 30 years old. Like, I remember just thinking like my father was no more than 39, and that was like 20 years after he was 39. Not really 20 years, obviously, but you know what I'm saying. Like, my father carried himself very, very well. You know what I mean? Anyways, let me just explain the purpose of this video. I just wanted to commemorate my father on his birthday. That's why it was very important for me to record this video beginning on December 23rd. Okay, so I mean, at this point it's 11:45, but honey, I made it. Okay, so whatever happens after that happens, period. So anyways, I just want to talk about my father and what it feels like to actually lose a parent, like, and what I go through and the things that I've been dealing with since I've lost my father back in 2008. I really think this definitely should have been a video between me and my sister. Pause. Yeah, we definitely sipping. This is definitely a sip and chill type of sip and talk or whatever. I forgot what I call it, but this is one of them nights. But yeah, okay, so my earliest memory of my father is a letter that me and my sister found. We were very, very young, but for some weird reason we could read, or I could very well. So my father has been a gay man all my life. Like, he died when I was like 19, I think. I really have to go back and really like pinpoint things, but yeah, so either way, he died way too soon. If he was 50, if I was 19 years old, that's way too soon for anyone to lose a parent. Okay. So the earliest memory I have of my father, it goes back, like, and I think pictures, help those memories stay alive. I'm sorry, excuse the boobs. Y'all know I ordered the largest size, right? I'm just saying. Okay, but anyways, the earliest memory I have of my father is popping up to my sister's preschool all the way from Manhattan, New York, dressed in a clown suit. My dad had the red hair, the red nose, a clown outfit on, popped up there with the clown shoes and balloons. And he had me with him, and we popped up at my sister's daycare or preschool, whatever. It was called Little People's College at the time. And he surprised her on her birthday. That's the earliest memory I have. Again, shout outs to the pictures. Okay. And then, back to me reading, I remember finding, I don't know if this was before or after, the clown suit, but I remember finding a letter that my father wrote to my mother, or maybe it was to us, but it was talking about him being gay. So I also remember very, very early, we were on Fire Island, and my dad calls himself coming out to us, and we're like, Daddy, we know. But the first lesson that I remember my father teaching my sister and I is to never be ashamed of your father. That's the earliest, one of many lessons he taught us. But the one thing that stood out at a very young age, let me tell you something. I got a very, very horrible memory, okay? But he taught us to not be ashamed that our father was a gay man, a gay black man at that. So whatever he did in that moment, in explaining and teaching in that moment to let us know, for us not to be ashamed of it, it stuck with me and my sister. Like, he was very thorough on it. It was so clear at a very young age. I had to be like 5 and my sister 3. But it was very clear from back then, we are to never be ashamed of our father. And I appreciate that, because that lesson carried on over the years, I have a compassionate heart because of that lesson towards people that shun, the gay community and lesbian community. And that's as far as I'm going to go, because back when my father was alive, there was no GBT, it wasn't none of that. It was just gay and lesbian. That's it. And trans. But it was just you either gay or lesbian. Okay? So yeah, my father grew up in Trenton, New Jersey. But by the time he was my father, he lived in Midtown. Well, he lived in Chelsea and then moved to Midtown Manhattan. So me and my sister, and this is why I say, we're from New York. This is why we claim New York, because we really, really lived in New York. I don't think people understand that. We were born in Trenton, New Jersey. But once my sister turned 2, my father had us like every other weekend. We went to performing arts school there. At first, before he got custody of us, we would be there every other weekend. My dad he would come down from New York to Trenton to pick us up and take us with him back to Chelsea. He had a beautiful loft apartment. This is why I want a loft apartment so bad in New York. But yeah, these are the early memories that I have of him. I remember our first perm. I remember him burning out of our hair. I'll never forget that. Right in front of a large window in that loft apartment in Chelsea. I remember this diner we used to go to in Chelsea where, after my dad had a nice, cute day, he would take us to the diner and we would have hot chocolate with whipped cream. My dad was amazing. He really, really was. It's unfortunate, that a lot of people don't experience that. But I think we were privileged because our father was gay, but I don't know. Maybe that's how all dads are. Unfortunately, I can't go there right now, but I don't know. But yeah, so those were the early memories of my father. We, he had us in everything, ballet, tap, dance in general. We would go to Central Park all the time. My dad was phenomenal. We go to Central Park. We would do African dancing with the people that were just randomly in the park vibing, like just dancing, had their own beat and music going on, and you just dance, and it's just a nice summer day and everybody's just moving. And my dad was definitely like one of those type of people. So yeah, that explains a lot when it comes to me. People don't understand where I come from, but that's where I come from. They don't understand that. They don't understand who I am and how I am because I'm in the hood currently, but we'll get to that. So, I'm really like, there's so many early childhood memories I have of my father, but I have to move forward. There's so many great memories I have with him. So then, my father ended up getting custody. He fought for me and my sister. Now, mind you, he did cheat on my mother with a gay man. And that's when he ran to New York. Well, he was already in and out of New York. But definitely when my sister was 2, that's when they started like going through custody battle. And the way it was explained to us, me and my sister, from my mother, is that my father, like, the judge had a liking, or he knew my father or something like that. My dad did have a lot of rich friends in high places. He dated a lot of rich men. So I don't find that far-fetched, because I did come across literally earlier this summer, my mom was going through her storage and she found some documents of, what the psychologist wrote about her and my father during that custody battle. And it was just like, ooh. You know what I mean? And it was interesting to see some of the things that they said about me that I, not just me, but me and my sister, and the thoughts that we had about our mother and our father, knowing the dynamics that turned out later, But anyway, fast forward one day while living in New York, and we lived in New York for a few years, like steady. Like, we only seen our mother I remember seeing my mom one time. I remember that clear as day, she parking in front of the apartment building in Midtown Manhattan and her getting out the car. That's the only picture that I have in my mind. But I only remember seeing her one time. And I mean, that was never anything that really stuck to me because my dad, he did so much during the time that we were there. We weren't thinking like, oh, I want my mom. Well, not me anyway. Maybe my sister was. But at some point that started to change. My father asked me one day, who do you want to live with? And we're already living with him. So I don't understand the question. But me as a kid, I'm just like, I can't decide. I want to live with both of y'all. I remember this clear as day, and this is the childhood me that started a lot of things, As an adult, this is why I can't handle rejection, because my father told me to my face, you used to be my favorite daughter. Now you're not. And I was like 7, 8 years old. Yeah, never forgot that. So I don't handle rejection from anyone well. No type of rejection. I don't handle that well. But moving forward, the relationship between me and my father, it definitely changed a lot. Like, what he said that day, he meant that. And he showed that. You know what I mean? He treated me like the stepchild. He still did things for us and everything, but he had malice towards me. And me and my father's attitude was very, very similar, is very, very similar. And by the time I was 12 years old, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So one day, we lived in Amsterdam. I don't even remember the full details. I remember 186 Amsterdam. It's upper Manhattan. It's not like, it's like upper mid Manhattan. It's not Harlem. It's where the rich people be at, where they film a lot of those movies in Manhattan. Is in that area. Very, wealthy area. My dad was dating a wealthy man. By the way, my dad never dated black men. He just was a black man that just didn't date black men. He dated rich men that were white, and that was it. Or, of a nationality that stems from white, I guess, Caucasian or whatever. But, yeah, so one day, we used to catch the bus. Like, my dad had two apartments, the one that was in the more wealthier neighborhood and the other that was like, I can't go there yet, but it'll be a part 2, 3, 4 maybe, because it's really deep when when it's about my dad. It's a lot. But long story short, one day I just decided I couldn't take it anymore. And we got on the elevator, me and my sister, to do our normal routine to go to school, to catch the bus all the way from 186 to 57th. No, 53rd or 2nd. I forget, but our school was like way in the 50s, like early 50s. And when we were on the elevator, I said, I'm running away to mommy house. And you can come with me or you can stay here. And without hesitation, my sister said, I'm coming with you. And that's how we ended up back in New Jersey. Literally. Like, it's so crazy because they were trying to say there was a storm that happened that day, and they were trying to say, like, it's impossible. They were trying to say my mom kidnapped us. Like, that's what my dad was trying to say. My mother kidnapped us. That's not what happened, because there was a storm and they were stopping trains. But, for some weird reason, we happened to catch it there. We took the train a lot back and forth to New Jersey from New York because my father's family lives in Trenton, New Jersey. So we were very familiar with that, alongside with the routine that we used to do prior to moving to New York. So me being the older sister, I knew my way around a lot. My dad had us like mature at an early age. Like, we were able to stem for ourselves. Like, we were able to go to the grocery store. We do a lot of things for him. I take after my dad with a lot of ways. Like, I teach my kids early to be self-sufficient, and that's the way my father taught me. So long story short, it's a very long story. I'm trying to cut it down, child. But we ended up back here. I called my mom. I remember the redhead guy, 1-800-COLLECT on the commercial. So I did that. Called her. She never answered, but I left her a message. And I said, Mommy, we're running away to New York. And our train arrives at whatever time it arrives. So when we got there, my mom did get our message because she was there. And people like to ask, like, well, what did the conductor say? Then we just said, oh, my dad put us on the train and our mom is going to meet us in New York, in New Jersey. And that's just how it was. That's really how it went. And, it was nothing but God's grace because the conductors kept checking on us and everything. I lied about my age only because at the time, my age, I don't know how it is now, but when you're 12 years old, you have to start paying for a ticket. So I said I was a year younger than that. And then I said my sister was a year younger than what she really was. So I believe I said I was 11 and she was 9. Dang, I was saying 7, but she was 9. So fast forward, my father ended up writing a letter giving my mother the rights because he was heartbroken. He was heartbroken that we ran away, but he looked at it like, if the girls want to be with their mother, they did all of that and they ran away from here to here, I'm gonna let them be with their mother. And he gave up, custody reluctantly. Trust me, my dad did not want to do that, but it's because we put him in that position. Even though the relationship between my father at the time and I was very, very strained, strained. I never once think my father didn't love me. Fast forward, now I'm a grown woman, getting older. My father became a lawyer. He went to law school, Fordham University, graduated and everything. And me and my father got back close again, like close how we were when I was like a little kid. So I would call him for everything. And I remember one time we got into it when I was older. This was like before we got back cool on a regular basis. That's a whole nother story. It's just so much. My dad is such a dramatic character. There's so many crazy stories with him. But long story short, we haven't seen our dad in 4 months, and that's not normal. All our lives, as long as I can remember, we always seen our father on a consistent basis up until this point. And when we seen him again, he looked completely different. All my life, I thought he was young. Thought he was like 30 to 39. This time, he looked his age. And it just like made me start questioning some things, now that I'm older. So I always wanted to ask my dad, why is he gay? Of course he told us it's because he was born like that, but I really don't believe anyone's born like that. But if that's what they say, okay. And no offense to anybody, please don't take any offense to that. I just feel like there's a lot of factors to that. I feel like you feel like you're born gay because your earliest memories is being gay. Okay, I don't think anybody's born anything. You just kind of adapt to certain things. But with my dad, I felt like his situation was different because he had such hatred for Trenton, New Jersey. I mean, it was like the root of our fights and arguments. Like when we lived in New York, me and my father fought so many times because he would talk so much junk about Trenton and living in Trenton and, oh, you want to be in Trenton and this, that, and the third. And I swear to God, I fought my dad so hard on it, and he was right. He was right. Now I sound like my dad talking about Trenton. I hate it, But I didn't understand it then, and I really thought that the reason why my dad was gay is because a male in his life took advantage of him, did something that they weren't supposed to do to him at a very young age, and that's why he's gay. That's what I felt like. So I always wanted to ask him that, and I felt like that's why he hated Trenton. That's why he ran away. That's how I look at it. That's why he hated so much, and that's why he hated going to Trenton, and because it's just negative when it comes to that. So I always wanted to ask him that, and I always wanted to ask him if he had AIDS, because as far as I know, it's predominant in the homosexual community, HIV or AIDS. But back then I wasn't really educated on the difference between HIV and AIDS. My question was, do you have AIDS? You know what I mean? Because one day he was healthy like me, muscles, built, and 4 months later I seen him, and I've never seen him like that in my life. So I prepared myself for his death. And it never happened. For 4 years, it was 4 years from the moment that I saw him shriveled up like a dried up string bean to the day he died. It was 4 years. And in those 4 years, I seen so many crazy things. I've seen like my dad did like that with his like tongue, like that, and his teeth. They all moved at one time as he did that. I seen like my dad's skin. He went from like my dad was dark skin. I'll say he had a dark brown skin. He went from a nice complexion into like gray. I watched my dad shrivel up and shrink and lose everything that I thought he was. That I always known him to be. Strong. He always was in the gym. Always was built. He was always big on appearance. And I just seen it gone. But still in all, my father got his degree, his second one, because he went to the Fashion Institute first when he was a designer when we were young. And then his best friend, because my dad has rich friends, paid his whole entire ride through law school. Crazy. So, me and my dad, before his death, we had a pretty good relationship. Very, very good. I have no regrets when it comes to the communication with my father. Now, my sister, on the other hand, terrible. Fortunately, she has not changed. She didn't learn anything from that. But me and my father, we were, he was just my best friend before he died. And 2 weeks before he died, the last conversation I had with him was 2 weeks before he died. And he sounded strange. It was like he was talking about a bunch of nothing. Like, it was like, Daddy, what are you talking about? Like, I'm on the phone like, Daddy, what are you talking about? He was saying a bunch of random stuff. I still remember the conversation. I just don't care to get into it. And then I was calling him in between those 2 weeks and got no answer. Before, when I called him, you know, he was like studying, getting ready to do the bar exam, and, you know, but he's graduated and he's working now. So all of a sudden, I just started reaching out to other people. And the day that I decided to reach out to other people is the day that they tell us that your father been in a coma for 2 weeks, and today is going to be the last day he's here. So you're like, what? So my mom, you know, took me and my sister, got on a train to go to New York. Our train was supposed to arrive at a specific time, but our train didn't arrive at that specific time. Because there was a delay in, like, you know how trains do, like, oh, now I gotta wait for this train to go by. But at the exact time that we were supposed to arrive in New York, that's when my father died. We didn't know this. All we know is we got to Penn Station. Now we're trying to get to the hospital that is immediately behind the apartment that we grew up in. And we got there, and like me and my sister are like racing. And I felt like the whole time, I didn't know like he was really, really dying. They said like this is his last day. But I'm thinking, if my dad, the way my dad loved me and my sister, he bragged about us to everybody, and everybody made sure to tell us how much our dad cannot stop talking about us, since we were little girls to grown little women. You know what I mean? So I felt like if my dad heard our voice, then he's going to wake up out of that coma. So when we got there, we never been through anything like this. Seen him, went straight to him like, Daddy, we're here, Daddy. You can wake up now, Daddy. And I'm like, I just happened to turn around, and my mom had this look of horror on her face, and she's talking to the nurse. She's like, I don't think they know that. And I'm like, no, what? And she's like, your dad's not here. That was deep. Like, that was deep. I had took a picture of him right there. And I'll never forget that image, because that's the last time I seen my dad. Of course, when the funeral came, me and my sister, did not want to go to the funeral. Like, we almost didn't, but it's like our last chance to say bye. So we went as late as possible. We went so late that it was 5 minutes left of his funeral. People was looking at us like, no, his daughters didn't walk in this late. And what we were doing before then was picking out our outfits, shopping, laughing, having a good time, you know, undermining our true pain. As soon as we walked in and seen like the casket with our father laying in it, we just broke down. Everything that we experienced that earlier that day, all the fun that we thought we had, as soon as we seen our dad laying there. So we went and sat all the way as far back as you can in a funeral home. And, you know, we were like the last, you know, how everybody leaves the building. We were the last to look at our father. And it was so quick. Like, and I regret that. I wish I had more lasting moments with my dad. I wish I stayed there longer than I did. It was so quick because he didn't look like him. He was blown up. My dad was never big. And I didn't know what to do. So I tapped him real quick because it just wasn't my dad. He wasn't there. And I just wish there's so much, like, we didn't know our dad was sick. Nobody told us. They kept it from us because our dad didn't want us to know. And there's a part of me that hates him for not letting us know, because if we knew that he was sick, we would have went back. He kept telling us, he kept asking us to come move back to New York, and we kept saying no. I stayed because of my kid's dad. Like, oh no, I'm dating this guy now. Like, if we knew that he was sick, if I knew, I can't speak for my sister, but if I knew that my dad really was that sick, I would still be living in New York. My dad would still be alive. So I don't even know really to this day what is the cause of death. I don't know. I don't know if he died because of AIDS. I don't know if he died because of syphilis and wasn't taking his medication. We heard two different things. Both are sexual transmitted diseases. So people, please wrap it up. But I don't know. I don't know anything. This story, everything gets so deep. Of course, like, a lot of times when there's a death in the family, that's when, like, people true colors come out. We really didn't fuck with our family on my dad's side, and we don't F with them at all now. Like, there's only literally probably like 2-3 people that we really F with. Bella, can you please give me a paper towel, please? Thank you.
It's gonna be okay.
I knew that there's a possibility I might cry, because I always cry thinking about my dad. Always. Thanks. I always cry thinking about my dad. Every day. I think about my dad every day. So it's not easy, you know? It's just, people say like it gets easier and easier. You know, it's literally like 13, 14 years later, something like that. Can't even do the math. Y'all know I'm not that great at math at the top of my head. I gotta sit down and think about it. But it's never easier, especially knowing that he died when my son was so young. He can't even remember knowing my dad. Like, no one knows my dad. And anyone that got the privilege of meeting my dad, like, means a lot to me, because you have a piece of him, you know? So the fact that my son doesn't remember my dad, and then, you know, when I was pregnant, I thought my dad was going to be like mortified. I thought my dad is super dramatic. It was actually my mom. But my dad was so happy that I was having a baby. And now I think it's part of it because he gets to at least meet a grandchild, you know? I think he knew he was going to die. But again, it didn't happen at that point until like a year later. But Doy, my son, my oldest son, he was very, very young. Actually, the last time we seen our father was Thanksgiving. We spent, me and my sister, my oldest son's father, and my oldest son, we spent Thanksgiving with my father. And this is the first time he never cooked. He always cooked a big, big meal. He took us out to eat instead at this French restaurant. I remember having duck. Very, very expensive. And he loved my oldest son, father. But, you know, me and my dad had this relationship where, you know, after like 3 days, literally every time, like, we just couldn't be around each other anymore. So we left earlier than we should. And then my dad wanted us to come back during Christmas, and we didn't, because I had a new boyfriend now who is now like my last 3 kids' father. And all he heard was his name, and he didn't like him. I think I'm definitely going to have to do this in parts, because there's so much to my dad. But I think I need this for, like, my healing. You know, the biggest thing that bothers me outside of, you know, my kids never knowing my father, because my father would adored them and spoiled them, because that's what my dad did with us. And you know how it is with grandkids. Like, they just over the top. Grandparents are over the top with grandkids. Some of them. But every time I think about getting married, it's the worst. Because not only would my father not be able to walk me down the aisle, or I won't be able to have the father-daughter dance, but my dad was supposed to design my wedding dress, because he was a designer, and that's all we ever talked about when I was a kid. I would tell my dad how I want my wedding dress to be, and my dad was such a great designer. He designed my mother's wedding dress when they got married. And that's never gonna happen. That's never. That hurts a lot, because, you know, I can have my stepdad, my brother, and my son walk me down the aisle, but nobody's gonna prepare the wedding dress and the gown and the wedding party, none of that, the way my dad would have done it. And my dad was like really good with weddings, not just his. He done a lot of weddings. So yeah. This is what, for starters, what it feels like losing a parent, you know? I feel like I don't cry this hard all the time, but I do periodically. My sister definitely has it a lot worse because her relationship with my father was strained. It's strange because she caused that. My dad and her never had any problems. Me and my dad were the more problematic. But yet she didn't want to deal with my dad. And every time my dad, I would talk to my dad, my sister would be right next to me. And he'd be like, oh, is that Ariel? Put her on the phone. And she'd be like, no, I don't want to talk to her. And she's still that way. And now she's that way with me. And that's just a whole different story. You would think that, because you shut your father off for no damn reason and he ended up leaving out of your life, that you would get it right with the remaining family that you have. And she don't. And that's a whole different kind of pain because that's what I have to deal with. And she doesn't understand that. Like, you're the only connection that I have to my dad, and yet you treat me very horribly and cut me off like him, and it gets very hurtful sometimes, and I get defensive sometimes and become nasty with her because of it. But we have our own way of grieving. She grieves completely different than I do. She takes it completely harder than I do, and that's just what it is, I'm sorry I'm giving y'all messed up boobs. And don't talk about me, okay? But for starters, this is it, what keeps me afloat at the end of the day is that my dad lived a full life in 50 years. He been all over the world to places most people don't even reach when they're, by the time they're 80, My dad was an international hoe, so he had the advantage to travel everywhere. And he did. And he had pictures to prove it. Unfortunately, we don't have those pictures because people stole from us, but that's a different story. But, that's what keeps me afloat, knowing that at least my father lived a full life and seen things that most people wouldn't, even at 80, dying at 50. He was happy. He's seen a lot of things. He's seen a lot of money. My dad dealt with men that would only take care of us. Okay, we had a great life living with our father because the men he dealt with, he made sure took care of us. The only thing he didn't do was take us with him on them damn trips. And I was so mad at him at that. But after I had my second child, I was like, I understand why Daddy didn't take us with him. This shit is expensive. So, yeah. I'm going to just wrap this up here because this is a long-ass video. But I definitely have to break it up in parts because I definitely want to eventually have my sister on here and my blood sister and my sister-in-law. She also lost her father. I know another young lady that lost her father. So I just want to connect with other people that, don't have their father. I lost my father before marriage. I do believe that if my father was here, the crap that I put up with men, or a guy in particular, would never have lasted this long. Ever. I probably wouldn't even have these kids if my dad was around, okay? My dad treated me and my sister like princesses, okay? He would never tolerate a man to do what they've done. Okay, so I feel and I came to that realization the other day, my dad would not be happy. And let me tell you something, I feel like there's some type of correlation, connection because another thing that kept me afloat is that my dad would visit me in my dreams since he died. I don't know if it's a real thing. I don't know if it's God allowing him to come in my dreams. Just so that I know that he's okay, and I know that he's checking up on me or whatever the case may be, because it did get to a point where, like, when I dream about my dad, I'm not just dreaming about him. Like, me in my dream know my dad is dead and trying to figure out, Daddy, why are you here? You're dead. Like, I'm fully aware of this in my dreams. And it's just, it's so, like, this happened for so many years to the point where when I see him in my dreams, it's like, oh, hey, Daddy, you know, I know you're dead. You know, like, that's how it is. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that's a subconscious thing, or if that's something like really real. You know what I mean? I didn't see that in the Bible, but at the same time, I know everything is not in the Bible, just things that we, you know, God really, really want us to know. But I haven't seen him for like 2 years. And I remember telling my sister that, like, a little less than a month ago, like, Daddy used to visit me in my dreams, and I haven't seen him in so long. You know what I mean? And normally when I see my dad in my dreams, I see him like around Thanksgiving, around his birthday, like in December, his favorite holiday, around Father's Day. Every blue moon is random in between those times, but normally it's like, it could be a month or two before his birthday. You know, it's something coming up that was sentimental to him. And I don't know if it's like subconsciously I'm thinking about him, like, oh, his birthday is coming up and that's why I'm dreaming about him, or it's just something that happens, you know? But he visited me about a week ago in my dreams, and I couldn't believe it. And I never got a chance to tell my sister, but he definitely visited me recently. So I kind of look at it like, maybe my father was like a little upset with me, you know, because of the stuff that I was allowing. And maybe now he's at a place where he's proud of me. And now he can look at me in my dreams again. You know, now he can come see me again, because I'm definitely different, you know, in a different place where I was within these last 2 years. Okay, so I don't know if there's a correlation between the two, but I was happy to see my dad again. And again, of course, I was like, Daddy, your dad, what are you doing here? What's up, Daddy? You know, I would like to see him again before the year's out. But yeah. So anyways, I done cried out my makeup. It's time for me to go, child. It's almost an hour in this video. If you stay this long, please give it a thumbs up, like it, subscribe. I will be doing other parts to this. This is kind of the introduction video. So hopefully they'll be a lot shorter, but you know, you can't put a timestamp on some real shit, okay? Anyways, you want to say bye?
Bye.
Yeah, come and say bye.
Bye.
My dad would have loved Bella if she was here. She wouldn't even be my daughter. She would be my dad's daughter, okay? All right, bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace and love, love and harmony, and be blessed. Yes.